Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And you know what? A while back I did a video and I was talking about comparing lines and talking about how you win basically. So the more creators that are out there, the more opportunity you have to have a much better collection. Now I'm not telling anybody anything new. I mean, if we think about like Marvel Legends, then we had those SH Figure Arts Marvel figures. It's kind of pushed Hasbro to release this Maximum series line to get extra articulation in their figure. And of course they're a little bit expensive, but they're still much cheaper than the imported figures. So when we talk about military action figures, in my last video what I talked about how Valaverse and Hasbro are kind of pushing the envelope when they're putting out these military style figures such as the Gijoe and the Action Force. And it only gets better from there. So let's talk about those two for a minute, right? Valaverse has brought their price down basically in their Series 6 to $27.99, and Hasbro pushed their price up to $27.99. So for Valaverse to hit the mark of being on par and same price point as regular retailers, basically like Hasbro, they're there because Hasbro kind of raised their prices. Now there's a couple of different things going on, right? You have a big company versus a small company, so you have large overhead, short overhead. There's a whole lot of things to talk about when you talk about a business. But when you're talking about, say, like a G.I. Joe action figure, and you're looking at, say, this police officer figure that G.I. Joe released, and you're looking at some of the things that could have made this figure like better, I say misplacement of like the equipment is wrong, stuff like that. A little bit more detail, and then just the release of it, right? I get it's a legacy figure. They wanted to have a tactical dude with like knee pads and stuff like that. I don't know why he doesn't have his primary firearm on his side here and like his taser up here on his vest, but they're swapped. So I think that that's a little bit mismanagement. You can see that like on my Selfie series figure, I have my Selfie series from Hasbro on a Valaverse Action Force body. This was the Duster body. That was kind of very tactical. I liked it in a way. I do love the holster, the way the gun set. Well, I don't have the gun here, but the way the holster for the gun is right up there on the belt line. I think that's very indicative. I think that police officer figure should have had this belt. This is the most universal, I feel, that you would find. I like the tactical equipment. It always looked really good. Good paint apps on here. You can tell what everything is just by looking at it. It doesn't just blend in and be like a black cord on a black vest. You see the black cord going through this like green vest, and granted, probably is going to be black, but at least it could have said police on the back or SWAT or ESU or something like that. But you don't actually, you know, you see this little radio pressed in there and stuff like that, but you don't really see what the difference is. You can see it kind of on the back of the Valaverse. But we got a new entry into the line, right? We're talking about military style figures, and you have the Monster Force, and I have the Donner Party here, and I recently reviewed it. You can check that out on my channel. For the most part, this is a quality figure. It does carry a little bit of a higher price point, but he comes with a ton of extras. Now the thing is with the Monster Force, it's going to be hard for me to say in general that all the Monster Force figures are quality figures. They're all priced a little bit different, but as we saw earlier this last week, they introduced a new line and they have those skeletons. Well, those skeletons aren't really made by Fresh Monkey Fiction. So how are they going to compare to the ones made by Fresh Monkey Fiction? So from my understanding, that Monster Force line is backed by the Big Bad Workshop. And primarily it seemed like it was Fresh Monkey Fiction making the figures, Gridiron Prop Studios making the weapons and stuff like that. It seemed like it was a collaboration. Now we got those skeletons, which look like they're from Fwoosh. So they're like going to be added to the line, and they're not from Fresh Monkey Fiction. So how do we compare those two now? So you can't just say Monster Force as a whole. You have to specify which part of Monster Force are the ones that are the good quality figures. Now I haven't seen the skeletons. I don't have any of those skeletons, so I can't speak for how good they are or anything like that. I've only just seen them. I did not get any of the previous versions because I'm not really interested in having any skeleton figures really. But I did get that clear red Blood Prince Dracula, which is a Fresh Monkey Fiction figure, and it was okay for like kind of one of the first figures they were putting out, and it was in that different kind of a plastic, didn't really hold together that well. But anyway, so we're going to talk about value for dollar, right? Get the G.I. Joe Classified Series figure, especially this ESU. He was a little bit more expensive. He came with a whole bunch of equipment. He came with multiple weapons. He came with a baton, 2 sets of handcuffs. Well, 1 set of handcuffs that came out and 1 that permanently sits in his belt. He's got a bunch of like deco. He's got the helmet. He had 2 heads, 2 different heads. He had the helmet. He had a shield. He had kind of like coverall thing. So it had a lot of extras that came with it. The unfortunate part about those extras is we've seen all those extras before. It's like getting this like Sergeant Slaughter in the blue, where he's got like the weightlifting equipment and he's got like all the stuff. Well, the Sergeant Slaughter always came with the hat and the glasses and the whistle and stuff like that. Those weights and stuff like that came out of the big BOA pack, and so you're getting a lot of accessories, but a lot of accessories are just stamping out of existing molds. When you see the Action Force figures, you're kind of now getting similar weapons, and they have a boatload of different weapons and stuff like that. So the difference in the quality of the weapons is very, very different, right? You would say that the Hasbro weapons are kind of flexible, flexi-plastic, whatever, feel kind of like, maybe not as sturdy as you would want. The Valaverse ones are a little bit more sturdy, don't have as much bend in them, but maybe are a little bit breakable. So it's kind of a give and take between the 2 lines. Now, at the same price point, the other thing that I find very interesting is that at G.I. Joe, it seems like we're getting a release after release after release after reveal, and they're just pumping figures out left and right, so much so that now you can now find, like Buzzer, of course this is a closed box, so it's a couple years old, at Ross for $5.99, and I recently just picked up that Sergeant Slaughter that I was just talking about for $10 at Ross. So if you just hold out, because there's so many of these Hasbro figures coming out, you're just going to find them at discount retail. It's not going to be like that with the Valaverse figures. They don't have like the deep line that G.I. Joe is just building on and building on and building on. Valaverse is putting out, 5 or 6 figures in each wave, and it's taking like a year to get that wave out. But the thing is, when you get those figures, you really do feel like, hey, that is something else. Now, I do have this figure from Valaverse, and I have a G.I. Joe head sculpt on it. I have the one in black outfit, and I also got the one in white because I thought, man, this is super cool. And yes, it is. It's really cool. The articulation's there. It's a beautiful figure overall. Very well done. And the thing is, I really love the boots. You can basically set this figure down and it stands up nearly no problem. Now we got the HasLab Baroness, which does look like a fantastic figure. I mean, the sculpt on this is amazing. They did a really good job on it. Anyways, they have this figure on high heels, which does make it look really cool. But setting it down and standing it up, there's a balance point that I didn't want to take the time during this video to find. And it's going to take me over a minute to stand that figure up properly, right? To get it to stand. And I can hit this counter and this figure's not falling over. That is the difference between having like a character like this, which looks really cool, doesn't need to be in high heels, is very tactical, versus the Baroness, who I know why they put it in high heels, because they wanted to give it a certain look, and it does look fantastic, but it's just not practical on your shelves, because every time you walk into your room, those figures are falling on the ground. Now, when you get back to the Fresh Monkey Fiction, this General Brown figure is kind of like a suited figure, that you might get from Marvel Legends. You would look at it and go, yeah, that's very, very plain. But in effect, in reality, this figure is actually really, really good. It's got like a swappable name, stickers for the name tag, comes really good deco. It's got really good articulation on it. The jacket is not too stiff. And he came with multiple head sculpts, of which I'm using the other ones on different action figures. So this Fresh Monkey Fiction, Monster Force Fresh Monkey Fiction, in my mind, are really great figures. They are a little bit more expensive, but it might take them a little bit to match those price points down, if they ever do. So you as a collector have to choose. Are you saying like, yeah, to get this General Brown, because he comes with all those extra heads and stuff like that, and I know he's going to be a very solid figure because I don't feel like this figure is going to break at all. And there's nearly nothing for me to do with this figure to modify it or change it into something else. Because if you know me and you know my collection, I do a lot of that where I'm changing stuff around. I mean, I got my Selfie Series head on this Action Force body from Valaverse, and I got this G.I. Joe Classified head sitting with this Valaverse figure also, because I think they work really well together. Then I got these custom kind of retro G.I. Joe heads on my G.I. Joe figures because I didn't really like the head sculpts that it came with, and I wanted something that looked really retro. Now the thing is, $27.99 is a big price point, and I know that we were complaining when Hasbro raised his prices. Valaverse lowered their prices, and we were happy about that. But we got to remember, Valaverse started at a much higher price, lowered their prices over a couple of years, and Hasbro has been consistently raising their prices. But the thing is, when you think about Hasbro and the figures you're getting, and you see like a figure like this police officer or whatever, when you see like a figure from Hasbro and it's got a whole bunch of accessories, and you've seen those accessories 20 times, and then when you look at them, you go, oh, I recognize these pants and those knee pads from another figure, and those arms are definitely off of something, you realize that they really did reuse that figure a lot, and they just compiled a bunch of stuff that they already had to make this brand new figure. So that's where you're not seeing the value here, because you're really not wanting to see like what they're creating from all the stuff that they have. But as a customizer, I do see kind of that. So I do see a little bit of value, and I was okay a little bit with the price increase. It just means that I'm going to have to be a little bit more picky. But I'm really impressed with how Valaverse has been striving to bring their prices down. And I'm looking at these Monster Force figures now, especially these ones from Fresh Monkey Fiction, and I'm super impressed with them. So as long as we're going to continue to get quality figures from Fresh Monkey Fiction, from Valaverse, and the same old things from Hasbro, I think that they're going to just continue to add to your collection, and pretty soon you won't even be able to come into your toy room because there's just going to be too many toys in there and you're not going to have room for yourself. Anyways, you guys tell me what you think. Did Hasbro raise his prices too high? Should they drop their prices? Is Valaverse okay? Should they drop their prices again to be cheaper than Hasbro? Are you happy with their limited kind of selection, and are you looking forward to those new black figures, the ones that are kind of like the pirates? And what do you think about Fresh Monkey Fiction and their Monster Force line? And then also, how do you feel about these other figures from other manufacturers now getting branded under Monster Force? Is that going to be confusing, and is that going to throw a wrench into what your idea is for a figure from Monster Force? Because you might be expecting something from Fresh Monkey Fiction, but you might be getting it from somebody else. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and as always, everybody, have a fantastic day.